Under the harsh glare of a relentless midsummer sun, the plains of Dustwell shimmered in a haze of gold and ghostly light. The cicadas screamed, their call a wail of sorrow caught in a jar, and everything that dared to breathe seemed to move. At a sluggish pace, as though weighed down by the burden of forgotten memories. Caleb Boone rode his bitboard along the back trail near Willow Creek, where the weeds reached up taller than a man's waist, and the Carter property lay half forgotten, just a leaning fence, a clogged-up well, and a barn that had once stored wheat, but now seemed to hoard shadows. He wasn't the type to stray off the path. Not anymore. 8 years had passed since his wife's death, and since that time, each day had blended seamlessly into the next. Fence posts at dawn, coffee by noon, supper in silence. But this morning, something tugged at him, something intangible. Not a voice, not a vision, but a sound he couldn't quite place. A thin, broken keening, rising through the heat waves like the last breath of something that once knew how to laugh. He pulled on the reins, and his horse snorted against the suffocating stillness. The wagon came to a stop. Caleb didn't stir. He didn't blink. The sound came again. Fate or memory, it hardly mattered. He knew better. A man who had lived alone for so long learns to recognize the shape of silence. And this was something else entirely. He climbed down slowly, his boots crunching through the dry weeds, his hand instinctively resting on the butt of the revolver he didn't remember bringing. At the edge of the Carter property, the barn slouched, half submerged in shadow. A fly buzzed past his ear. His fingers brushed the splintered wood, tracing the initials carved by children long ago, neither ghosts now, or, worse, townsfolk. And then there it was again, the sound. Quiet, not desperate, just steady. Like someone who had given up on being heard but hadn't stopped hurting. He pushed the barn door open just enough to slip inside. The dim light filtered through the cracks in the weathered boards, casting thin stripes across the hay-covered floor lines like prison bars. The air carried the heavy stench of sweat, blood, and old straw. In the corner, curled up like something, broken and ashamed, lay a woman. Her dress was torn, one ankle twisted at a strange angle. Her eyes, wide and too large for her bruised face, blinked once when she saw him, then closed again, as though it hurt to be seen. Caleb didn't speak. He stood there for a long moment, one hand resting on his belt buckle, the other hanging by his side. She didn't cry out, didn't flinch, but her breath hitched, soft and uneven. Her skin wore sunburnt at the edges. Her lips cracked. Without a word, he turned, walked out, returned a minute later with a dented canteen. Set it near her, didn't try to help her drink it, just set it down, slow. And backed away, like one might do with a wild dog who's been kicked too many times. He left. Hearthier, but he came back the next day, this time with bread, cloth, bandages, a blue calico dress folded under his arm. She was still in the same place, her breath slower, her skin pale. She didn't touch the water till he left again, didn't touch the food until he was fair now that she thought he couldn't see the third day. She whispered something when he came. Don't tell no one, Emma. He crouched near the door with a light pulled like a promise. Ain't planning to. I mean it. I know she didn't ask his name. He didn't offer it, but he knew hers. Everyone in Distill knew. About Mabel Carter, the fat widow, how married sot, lost her husband in second spring, and then couldn't hold herself together. Her mother-in-law, Tala, called her an embarrassment, said she brought shame, tough, family name with her body her tears, and her failure to produce ocult. Folks had whispered when she stopped appearing in church, but no one asked why, except a boy named Elijah, 8 years old, mute, always hiding behind fence posts. He had seen Caleb walk by the Cutter property and tilted his head like a question. Caleb nodded once, and the boy never spoke, but the next day there was a bundle of clean cloth set quietly near the barn door. Mabel didn't ask where it came from. She just pressed the cloth against her shoulder where the bruise still bloomed purple. On the 5th morning, Caleb brought a folded blue dress and laid it on a wooden crate inside the barn. Mabel stared at it like it was a trap. "Enter," she said. "No, ma'am," Calabru pleaded, brushing sawdust from his shins. She didn't touch Thedrus till he left, but the next day she was wearing it, and though it sagged in places and clung tight in others, shelled her head a little higher. That's when Talia came. She arrived like a storm that had waited too long to break, riding up in a wagon pulled by a sweeting mule. Her voice already raised. She wore black lace gloves and the sharp kind of anger only pride can breed. "You'll think she's yours to rescue," she spatters. Caleb stood at the edge of Theban yard, arms crossed. "That girl ain't right. She's been lazy her whole life, sitting in pies and pity. She's fat, useless, ungrateful." Caleb's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Shishangri Tala laughed like a blade. "She belongs to us, and we locked her up 'cause she asked for it. You lock up horse that kick, not women who grieve. She shamed my son. She buried him." Their words fell into the heat like thunder. Elijah, hiding near the well, flinched when Tala shouted, "You'll ruin your name for trash like her. I ain't got none 'em worth savon if I leave her there." That night, Mabel limped to the porch off Caleb's. Cavan? He had carried herons, but now she walked slow but proud, her ankle wrapped in cloth, her hands blistered from leaning on the cane he'd carved that morning. Inside the cabin, the table was set with a chip plate and a spoon. A lantern burned low. She stood at the doorway, eyes wide. "You sure?" she asked. "Come in." She did. Hadn't touched her. Didn't sit close. Just poured coffee, placed cornbread on the plate, and asked if she preferred Melissa's. She laughed just once, a sound so thin it could have broken, but it didn't. When she finished, she rose, her knees shook. He helped her to the spade, once his wife's, and laid a quill over her, not touching her skin. "I'll bout front," he said. He didn't lock Theodore, didn't wedge a chair under Vec knob like she'd learned to expect. She woke in the middle of the night, heart pounding. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she saw the lamp glowing faint in the next room, half the creak of a rocking chair. She limped to the porch and found Caleb sharpening a knife under the stars. She stepped back. He looked up. "Coyotes," he said, "sometimes get too close." She sat on the edge of the steps, clutching the blanketita. "I got nowhere to go." "You go there," he replied. She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Why were you helping me?" "Because somebody should have her a long time ago." She nodded. The next morning came with dust and sweat and thesmal of woods. Tala arrived again, but this time she wasn't alone. 2 men radu with her, all hard shoulders and loud boots. Caleb stepped off the porch. His heart was open at the collar. A hammer hung from his belt. "She's coming back," Talia said. "Or we're talking her. Shestrin did. She's my kin." "Then you should have treated her like it." One man reached for his belt, fingers twitching. Caleb's voice was soft, almost tired. "I've buried snakes bigger than both of you." The silence that followed was thick. Talitha's mouth curled into something cruel. "Fine, keep her. See what Dustwell thinks of you now." They left. That evening, Maybelle baked for Faye first time in months. Her fingers trembled, but the dough obeyed. She set bread on the porch rail to cool, then sat in the chair beside Caleb. They didn't speak. Fireflies blinked in Thegris. A breeze stirred the hem of her dress, and for once, Dokaka sang something. Soft. Some folks think redemption comes loud with gunfire and grand gestures. But sometimes it comes with bread on a shared plate, or a manwo listens more than he speaks. Sometimes it comes in the shape of a pitch rocker swaying gently and thieving him. Light in a woman who for the first time in her life is allowed to sit down and stay. And if you ask me, that is the kind of salvation that lasts. Did this story stir something in you? If you believe in quiet courage, second chances, and the kind of love that speaks in actions, not words, then subscribe to Wild West Short Tailies for more. Stories that heal and haunt. Like if you felt her pain. Comment if you beloved. No one deserves to be locked away and forgotten. Hit the bell so you never miss the next ride through dust, sorrow, and hope. Because out here, Evancelins has a voice.